Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Jay and John. What's up, gentlemen?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, doing great, Kyle.
Yes, we are. It is in the middle of Halloween madness, so I have already been, or my kids have already been to 3 separate trunk or treats.
Yep.
Which means we already have a lot of candy in the house, and it's not even Halloween yet.
Yep. Yeah, I did that with our youngest. It was miserable. The people were just insane there, and it wasn't like as spread out as it normally is. You know, like when you go to a neighborhood.
Yeah.
It was just
it's
madness.
It's all right there. Yeah, it's total utter chaos.
Yeah.
My son had one at his school, and like he goes to preschool, so it's not very big, and the parking lot is not very big. There's like 10 cars just jammed right up next to each other with 60 kids in this one little space, and it's
And it's never enough. It's never enough for these kids,
I know.
Like the trunk or treats became popular during COVID and stuff because it was like, oh, hey, you don't have to go to neighborhoods. We'll do it in this controlled environment. And then they just kept going. And now it's like,
confined space.
Yeah. Now we got to go to, like Kyle said, 3 trunk or treats and we got to go on Halloween night too. Oh, dude, it's just.
Yeah. No, it's fun though. Like, I mean, the kids love Halloween. It just gets to be a bit much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did pumpkin carving today, so that was good.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
So you're still in that age with your kids where like it's all like super exciting still, like all of it's like amazing. Like we've got 3 teenagers and a 12-year-old, so it's like 3 teenagers could care less about anything forever now. They're just stay in their rooms and play Call of Duty. And the 12-year-old is like on the cusp. Like he's almost there where he's like being kind of, a brat about stuff, but he's still like childlike wonder, but also kind of like that teenage mean streak. So it's a real weird place.
I feel like there's like 3 stages of the Halloween existence.
Yep.
Really 4 stages.
He had to mute because there's no he was gonna go on a whole tangent and then he had to mute.
Yeah. So there is the kid stage, where you're a kid and Halloween is amazing.
Yep.
There's like once you become a teenager, the holiday just like doesn't exist to you, basically. Then you become like an adult, a youngish adult without kids, and then you go to like Halloween parties and stuff, and you enjoy Halloween in a very different way. And then you become an adult with kids, and then you sort of re-experience it through like the kid nexus all over again. And then you go as like a unicorn in a onesie or something instead of.
Is that what you're going as?
No, that's what my wife is going as because my daughter wanted to be a fairy princess.
Oh, that's perfect.
I am going as a giant cat in a onesie. So.
Well, you guys really into onesies over there.
They're cheap and easy. So it is what it is.
That makes sense.
I couldn't convince my kids to do a Star Wars themed costume.
Yeah, that's
shame.
Yeah, kids having their own minds is the worst.
Yeah, like I could do like the rebel officer thing. And like I have that costume. I've worn it to Legion tournaments, but
without like supporting characters, like a rebel officer costume kind of just looks like
it's
not Star Wars.
Right. It doesn't, it's out of context. It doesn't look right.
Yeah.
So we had one of our kids, he and I always would have like corresponding Halloween outfits. Like he went as Indiana Jones, I went as his dad. Like I dyed my beard and everything with white, like it's Indiana Dr. Jones Sr. And then I went as J. Jonah Jameson and he went as Spider-Man, like stuff like that. And so for a long time we did corresponding, but now he wants to correspond with his friends at school, and it's not with dad anymore. Dad happens. They turn 16 and start driving and think they rule the world. We were all there.
Yep, we were. All right. We are going to talk about Legion today at some point.
Overrated.
eventually. Um, we're going to talk a little bit about Invader League because that has moved from the round robin to the elim stage, which means that people are getting serious. Not that round robin isn't serious, but more serious.
Yeah.
Which you can see reflected in the lists that people are bringing. So we will also have an article up about this, possibly around the same time or before the show goes up. So, so we'll talk about that. We had an interesting topic suggestion from one of our listeners about activations. So we'll talk about that. But first we have housekeeping and then also I think some news. So
yeah. All right, let's do housekeeping. As usual, if you like this content or the blog that we're about to put out, you could join us on Patreon. We are shipping out we're going to ship out Battle Force print and play cards to people who haven't gotten them already, and erratas to other people. If you're listening to this, we still haven't shipped them out. We had a little backup with one of our machines, and I got to get that going, but hopefully in the next week or so, we should be getting those out. So keep an eye out for those. And then, join us on the fifthtrooper.com. Use any of our tools. We've got list building tools, stats tools, all kinds of tools. LegionQuickGuide.com, if you guys haven't checked that out. That's a quick tool to see all the rules reference guide entries and everything. And then if you want to join our Legion narrative campaign, we have a campaign called Stormtide. It's a monthly campaign that's out right now, season 3, and you could start right now in season 3. I think that's it for housekeeping today.
That was exceptionally efficient.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Quickest housekeeping.
I'm going to be honest. I told the guys before we started, but I was having a little bit of an allergy attack before we started this podcast. So I'm just trying to keep everything real quick. And my throat, you ever do that? Your throat does that thing.
It's a little scratchy.
Yeah. And you're you can hear
itchy.
yourself breathing, because it's all like a wheeze almost. Yeah. Yep. I got that all going on right now. I hate it.
Yep. Been there.
But the show must go on. So here we are.
You got
sacrifices.
You got any news for us, Jay?
Yeah, so we got an email from a listener that with some information that they thought we might want to know. And basically it was surrounding, I don't know, maybe a month ago at this time or a few weeks, we had a whole episode about all the things that we reported on that AMG had been messing up, and we had encouraged you, the audience, if you had one of these problems, to reach out to customer service at Asmodee. And so a customer came back and said, hey, I got a really interesting response, which was basically, in a nutshell, their new their new modus operandi is that they say, hey, go back to your store. You got to deal with your local store, return it. Well, this person had an experience where they're just flat out sending them another box. So
Asmodee is not the store.
Correct. Yeah. It was his Echo based defenders. He didn't have his support tokens. He reached out to them. They came back and said, hey, no problem. Usually, basically they said, normally we suggest returning your retailer, but because of this specific circumstances of this, we're going to go ahead and just send you another box. Which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
The real interesting part that I found out was they asked to take photos and detail the nature of what was missing and all of that. And it wasn't to verify the claim, but for our records and to forward on to our production team, manufacturing partners to improve future printings.
You think their production and manufacturing is getting in trouble with all the heat?
Yes.
And Big Daddy Asmodee's cracking down?
Yes.
No, I mean, this is
good.
This is great. This is the kind of robust customer focused experience that I think, we, the Legion community, was hoping for when these quality issues started popping up. So to hear that people are getting responses, period, is great. But also this we're taking this seriously. We're going to send you another box.
Right.
And please take pictures so we can document this and improve this in the future. That's all amazing. I heard another similar situation where, the 501st box is missing a lot more than just support tokens. Among those things like flight stands, and they basically just sent the guy like some free ARC Trooper boxes, which have the flight stands in them. So similar situation. If
Okay.
so, if you again, if you've got one of these boxes and you haven't sent them an email yet, I would encourage you to do so, because it sounds like you don't have to just settle for not getting shield tokens or
Right.
flight stands or whatever you're missing from the box. You don't have to try and pillage them from other Legion players. Contact customer support. Make sure that they know what the deal is. So.
Yeah, and I think it's it's twofold. I think one, to make you whole, right, as a consumer, but also it seems, right, I don't know anything more than anybody else, but just being in corporate America and understanding how that works, like it seems like Asmodee corporate customer service may not have been aware of some of this, and as they're made aware, they can document that and make changes for the future, which is great.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, that's really encouraging. Hopefully we see more of that sort of thing for this run. Hopefully in future runs they're just not missing the tokens or whatever in the first place.
But you know what?
Yeah.
They're doing some good, and so we want to
Baby
make
steps.
sure we want to make sure that we document that as well.
Yeah, this is great. All right, anything else on that?
Nope.
Make sure you're sending emails, people. Polite emails. We stressed that in our last one, but always be polite.
Be nice. I mean, email if you have an actual problem.
Yeah.
A real problem that customer service can do, and be super polite about it.
Yep. All right. Well, how about we hit let's do the activation thing first. Because I think if we don't get to the Invader stuff, we will have an equal opportunity to talk about it next week. So I think we will get there.
Accurate.
But all right. How do you want to frame this? So how do we want to frame the question?
Well, I think this actually comes from two separate, slightly related places. The first was on the QA. Basically, somebody asked if
it's on our Patreon. We do every month. We do a live question and answer. You can come on with it's usually 4 to 5 of us from the Fifth Trooper Network and just ask whatever questions, and we answer.
Yep. So basically, the question was, should there be an activation cap? And then related, and I don't know if this is the same person or not, but somebody on one of the YouTube comments basically posted what would you do, if you were queen for a day, so to speak, to make low activation lists more viable. So similar. So
I'd like to correct you, and it's king for a day now.
Is it king for it? Yeah, that's right. It is now. Is it supposed to follow the British monarch?
I mean, I think it is, but seeing as most of our entire lives has been a queen, I don't know. I feel like it just seems like something you should be doing now. I mean, they changed their national anthem, so
that's true.
Why not us reword
I'm just
our
wondering.
questions?
I feel like this whole time the phrase has actually been king for a day, not queen for a day.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Have I? Look,
There's
not
even a
known
song called King for a Day by a band I like.
Okay. I'm not known for correctly.
I love how you didn't tell us what band.
Euphemisms.
You were just like a band I like.
Pierce the Veil.
All right, thank you. Now we can all go and look it up too.
Yes,
all right.
Go look it up.
Well, I'm glad we're clear on that. I think the overall point of the expression is clear.
All right, nobody can derail a podcast like Jay, huh?
Yep.
My point was, now that there's a king, maybe we should say queen for a day and flip it like it was flipped.
Always the contrarian. Can't just.
My question is just is it necessary that it's related specifically to the British monarchy? It's not like.
That's fair.
Are there other monarchies?
Yes.
There are.
Sarcastic.
I feel like that's the one we know the most about, though.
Oh,
right?
100. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. All right. Anyway, let's move on. So I think this is twofold. Is kind of is this a little bit of a solution in search of a problem? And then B, if we hypothetically say that it's not, what change would you make as that solution?
Yeah. So I know you have lots to say on this, Kyle. I'll just
I
say
have many
this.
opinions.
I think the opinion varies depending on the meta we're in. Like if we were asked that when the triple staps, 13 activations, CIS lists were crushing everyone back, about a year and a half ago or so, we probably would have said, yeah, maybe there needs to be a cap, right? But now it seems like things have settled back down to 10 again. So it's like, everything's fine.
So my opinion is I don't think we need a cap or a minimum, but I think there needs to be a passing mechanism. I don't think it needs to be, but I think the game could benefit from a passing mechanism. And I don't see anything wrong with how Marvel does it either. Marvel Crisis Protocol. So just to for those of you that don't know, the system they use is if you have fewer remaining activations than your opponent, then you can pass.
Like an unlimited number of times?
Yes. So this prevents you from ever being able to go last by passing.
I hate everything about that.
But you could get second to last. So you can't, it doesn't allow you to maintain or to do a last first kind of shenanigans. But it does keep you in the game if you're losing. It just keeps it not even really, but it gives you more options. And the low activation armies will still suffer from having fewer actions. 8 activations only has 16 actions around. Like that's still one of their biggest struggles is the limited number of actions, not just the body count.
I think that's debatable though, because there are, first of all, not all actions are created equal.
Right. No.
More expensive units have more valuable actions.
Sure.
But also more expensive units tend to have more actions to compensate for that. And particularly like force users are a great example.
Not objective actions though.
Except Yoda. Yeah. Right. But they could have like free attacks from, there's multiple keywords that do that: relentless, steady, charge. There's command cards that do that. They could have other free actions that they get, like some simple examples are ones that give you free tokens like agile or target or defend or
so what bad
tactical.
Do you think will come from 7 activation lists being viable, from them being able to pass?
So I think for me, it's the fact that activations matter, and more specifically that eliminating activations of your opponent matters. I think that's a feature rather than a bug
so
of the alternating activation system.
There are many ways why it matters, but you're specifically referring to the fact that you get several actions on the back end, several activations on the back end unreacted to.
Yeah, usually not several. Usually it's like one, but yeah.
Well, but you're looking to get several.
Eventually,
by removing a strike team, and now I've got 2 at the back end.
Right. Yeah, I think that's, personally, I view that as a feature, not a bug. The second is, I think that the fact that we don't have any specific activation cap or activation minimum or really any other like hard rules surrounding activations, and the fact that it's kind of naturally settled around 10 is a sign that it's healthy. And Jay brought up the example of 13 activation steps. I don't think that was good, but that issue I think was resolved through things that have nothing to do specifically with activations. And that was, among other things, like the 4-card flip, which made it so that you couldn't force bombing run or breakthrough in the last slot. But also just like points changes, staps went up, B1s went up. And, and then that list archetype kind of went away. You can still run high activation staps, but it's become like 11 to 12, and it's not nearly as effective as it was during that time period. If indeed it was actually effective during that time period, which I think is itself debatable. But beyond that, you can, like, it's legal in the game to run a 14 or 15, or I think I saw someone post like a 17 activation list the other day to Discord. Like, that's a thing you can do, but nobody does because those lists are bad.
Yeah.
The fact that we've settled like around 10 is just kind of a symptom of how the game works, which is that you need enough actions to do stuff. But like, if you take too many, then you're not taking meaningful units, right? And I think if you do something like you're suggesting, John, where you just give yourself unlimited passes if you're down on activations, you essentially make activations not matter for that purpose.
No, because you still have fewer actions.
Sort of, but again,
You still, like, I'm still only shooting 7 times, maybe 8, because one of the units can attack twice.
but those 7 shots are way more valuable because you have 7 more expensive units than, when you have 10.
Sure.
You've got like a mortar or sniper strike team in there instead of 6 beefy pikes and maul or whatever you're taking, or six clone troopers and Yoda. So yeah, you might be making quote unquote less attacks, but all of your attacks are more effective.
Neither of those have anything to do with the passing mechanism, though. This is just we're just talking about the units, the quality of units and their attacks versus the quality of these units and their attacks. None of this addresses the ability to go later.
Well, but I think that factors into the cost of a unit, because when you say that a mortar is 38 points or a sniper strike team is 48 points or whatever, you're not just pricing that unit's attack. You're also pricing the fact that that unit gives you an extra activation. And I think if you introduced some kind of unlimited pass mechanic, you'd have to kind of reevaluate all of your points costs. Because if you're not taking a mortar at 38 points if all you're doing with it is throwing 3 dice a turn. And
well, you're throwing 3 dice a turn, forcing a save probably, and dealing 2 suppression. And you've got thumbs to do some of the things.
Let me put it this way. If you create an unlimited pass mechanic, I'm not taking strike teams and I'm not taking mortars. I'm just not taking those units because they're not good enough. I
still don't see the relation between strike team. I mean, you're putting out 10 suppression a turn as opposed to 7.
But factored into the point cost of a unit like that is the fact that they're making, because you do take good units in lists like that, they're increasing the value of the good units you take in your lists by giving you more timing over when they go.
Well, it's also helping you because Sabotage the Moisture Vaporators, you have 2 cheaper units, less meaningful units to hang back and do the Vaporators, while a 7-act list has to spend beefy units doing the Vaporators. So any fighting is hampered a lot by that. Or intercept the transmissions hanging back. Like, there are many, many reasons why you might want cheaper activations.
Yeah, but you can't discount the fact that one of those reasons is...
It is, yeah.
I mean, you'd have to reevaluate all your points costs if I did that.
What if you, instead of doing an unlimited passing option, what if you put a number to it? So let's say...
this suggestion has been made. I like this a little better because I think it's similar to what Armada does, where I think basically if you start the game with, and correct me, Armada players, if I'm wrong, but I would, if something is necessary, I don't think that it is, but if it was, I would strongly prefer something like this. Basically, if you start the game with less activations, like say you have 9 and your opponent has 10, then you get 1 pass token, and you can use that pass token whenever you want. But once you use it, it's gone. It's one-time use. So you use it the most important time, to get to pass to make up that activation gap, and then it's gone. So it mitigates the effect of starting with less activations, but it still sort of embeds the meaningful eliminating activation strategy that is present in every game, because it's only affected by the starting activation count, and it's not so far in the direction of like unlimited pass where you have to start like really reevaluating how useful all of your units are, and waiting too far in the other direction where you're providing too much weight to high value units. And I think that, just sort of elaborating on our previous point, I think the fact that it's settled on 10 is just kind of a symptom of how the game works. And I don't think that's necessarily a problem, because like 9 is fine, 10 is fine, 11 is fine. There's like a range
The
that's
only
fine.
so I'm not saying it's necessary to add a passing mechanic, but I think it would enable a lot more units that are currently not viable, or a lot more lists too that are not viable.
I think it would just skew that range further down, but I think you'd still have a range. I think those 11 activation lists, and it's unusual now for people to run 12, but sometimes people run 12. I think those lists would suddenly become bad because the units that you're taking to get to 11 or 12, like mortars and naked B1s and strike teams, are just not costed appropriately for that sort of thing. So that's just me. I think this is kind of similar to, if you talk about the idea of an activation gap to like baseball with pitchers on the roster. For a long time in baseball, there was a cap of how many pitchers you could have on your roster of 14. And some teams would bring 14 pitchers. Some teams would bring 13 pitchers. Nobody would bring 12 pitchers. And that was just that, like, that's just how baseball works. Like, that's the minimum number of pitchers you need to get yourself through 5 starters and to get yourself through 9 innings. And now they've capped the number of pitchers you can have on a roster to 13, and now everyone just brings 13 pitchers. So, if you want less pitchers to be good, but if you want people bringing 12 or 11 or 10 pitchers, you would just need to make the game shorter, right? You'd have to make it like 7 innings. But then if you made it 7 innings instead of 9, then everybody would just bring 11 pitchers instead of 13, even if you had a 13 pitcher cap or whatever. So I think if you go so far in the other direction and just kind of make them not matter for purposes of turn, going late in the turn, I think that you just take that range, which we currently have, that's like for competitive, clearly like at your kitchen table, like if you want to play 7 activations, that's probably fine. But for competitive, it's that range is kind of 9 to 11. I think if you introduce some kind of like artificial devaluation of activations, it just changes from 9 to 11 to like 8 to 10 or 7 to 9. I don't think you change the fact that there is a range that's competitive. I just think the competitive community finds out what that new range is, basically.
Yeah, I would agree,
Maybe.
right? Because I think no matter what you cap it at, like, I mean, where would you, like, if they were going to cap it, if we were going to, let's say we were in charge in your scenario for King of the Day, King for the Day, you would look at all the statistics and you'd be like, well, it looks like 10's the number, so I'm going to cap it at 10, right? And then we're just at roughly the same place.
Yeah, I don't think a cap would change anything, good or bad.
Yeah, now if they did like a 7 activation cap, that'd be ludicrous. But like if they did it, then that would change the game, obviously.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I think too, a lot of times I see people wanting something like this is they're like, well, I want to bring Yoda, or I want to bring something else. Like, I want to bring good units. Like, you can still bring those units. You just got to have a more balanced list where you're not taking, like just a bunch of 150 plus point units. You got to have variety in your list. You got to have some units that, as you said, do VAPs.
But when it's
tokens.
Republic and you take Yoda and you want activations, then that's nothing.
But I think that's a completely separate problem that has everything to do with how Republic units are costed.
Yeah,
sure.
Because it has not always been a problem for Republic. It's only been a problem since the recent balance patch. When all the Republic units got cost increases.
right.
So I think this is a little bit of a solution in search of a problem. I think if you want to run, if you're a frustrated Republic player right now and you're like, well, I can't make look, and I'm one of these people, when I play a Republic list, I play 9, and I would love to be playing not 9. This is a problem that you can solve with points reductions.
There's something too for people at home to keep in mind. Like, we get questions like this a lot, or I've seen them on Discord or on Facebook, where something happens to you at your house or at your local game store with like, I don't know, a 12 activation list comes and stomps you or something, right? Or your buddy is always bringing like a 12 activation CIS list and he's just always beating you. And people, I think, automatically think it's a problem with the game or the faction or the, you know, this or that, versus it just being a problem with either their friend or the people at the store are just
Get a little
better.
echo chamber.
Yeah, or they're just better than them, right? And they just don't know how to deal with that, and they haven't seen the rest of the world, you know, and gone to an event, a major event, and seen that most of us are 10 activations, you know. It's like the majority of people. So I think it's too, when you're thinking about this stuff, just, you know that if you're only basing it on your experiences at your local store and at your house, it could be different in the wider world.
Yep. Speaking of activation counts, should we look at Invader League data? Do you see how I did that transition there?
So
So-
smooth.
So good.
100% flawless.
This is why we give you.
Natural ending. Jay muting himself.
Yep.
So credit to this data is partially to Team Relentless and Mbueha. I'm sorry, Ben. I know you personally. You are a friend, and I can never pronounce your online Discord name properly. Who put all this together kind of manually, because Invader doesn't import that well into Legion stats by the nature of what it is.
Yeah,
Yep.
they change lists so often. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he essentially did this manually. He worked to write an article on this with Evan from our blog team, which should be out this week. So I'm going to pirate from that a little bit for purposes of the show. The article will probably be out first, so I suspect this will serve simply as a support discussion for that article rather than a replacement. But yeah, so basically what they did is they went and they looked at all the round robin data. They looked at the factions that played in round robin. They looked at the win rates of said factions in round robin. And then they compared them, because lists for eliminations were due this weekend, to what people are actually bringing for eliminations. So for those that don't closely follow Invader, basically how this works is it a 196 person tournament. Starts out with a round robin phase where you're essentially separated into 6-person, not essentially, you are separated into 6-person groups, which for all intents and purposes is like a 6-person league. And each of those people in those groups plays every other person. So a total of 5 games. And then the top 2 from each group advance to like a March Madness style elimination bracket, which is the stage that we're now going into. So for round robin, what would you guys guess was the most popular faction?
Empire.
yeah. I'd probably have to say Empire.
Yeah, it was Empire. What would you
Gotten
say?
a lot of buffs recently.
Yeah, and the lion's share of the new units.
Yeah.
What about least popular?
CIS.
Less than Gar?
Yeah.
I'd say Gar.
All right, so I should clarify, for purposes of faction, I also mean the faction list also is included as a separate data
The
point in this.
Shadow
The Shadow Collective, yeah.
Shadow
Oh,
Collective.
Then Shadow Collective.
Shadow Collective less than Gar. I would still say Gar.
Yeah, so it was Shadow Collective. Empire was 32%, Rebels were 28%. Droids were third at 16%. Pretty big drop off there between the GCW factions and everything else. Republic at 14%, and then Shadow Collective at 10%.
See, with
Wow.
it being round robin, I thought maybe Gar would see a little bit more play because, like we're about to talk about, you know, people get a little bit crazier with list building in round robin than they do.
So you're thinking it's more fun to play
Yeah,
than Shadow Collective? It's fair.
I think so.
I agree. Shadow Collective is very narrow list building. You have like
It
2
is. options.
options.
No, there's an
Which I'm actually okay with, right? Because it's not a full faction.
Right.
So,
It's
yeah,
not a
it's,
faction.
it's just
Yeah.
a battle force. But the win rates are interesting. What would you guess had the highest win rate among those 5 in round robin?
I would still guess Empire.
Win rate.
I mean, they're most popular, so that they could suffer from that. I'm still saying Empire though.
Let's say CIS because they were third.
You're both wrong. You're both close.
Rebels.
No, Shadow
Oh.
Collective.
Oh,
Okay, so
Pretty-
the tryhards, the few tryhards that played Shadow Collective did well with it.
wow.
Are you
Okay.
ready for this? What would you just guess their win rate? Because there's no way you're gonna get this.
92%.
Okay, that's too
Nah,
high.
I'm going like 70.
Oh,
All right,
7-0.
John is closer, 67%.
Ooh, wow.
That's really high.
Jeez.
This is 196 players, by the way. So this is now I don't know how many games make up that shit, just purely the Shadow Collective, since it was only 10% of the field. But
Right.
I guess we can know that that's a knowable thing, right? About 200
196.
players, so that's 20
Yeah.
Shadow Collective players. That's 100 games. Yeah, so that's 100 games.
Yeah.
A little less than 100 games because it's 196. But anyway,
look
you
at,
get the idea.
Look at you guys doing math.
Yeah, it's I may not know how to make a video, but I can do math in my head. So yeah, 67. That is high. You guys were on it with at least the second and third. So the second highest win rate was actually droids, which I was a little surprised by. Probably because there was only 20 Shadow Collective players, or 18, whatever. At 55%.
Their natural predator.
Yeah, Shadow Collective is their natural predator. And we talked about this last week. If pikes get nerfed and they do nothing to Magna's spider
They'll just
droids,
come back.
STDs, E5Ss, they're just going to be right back where they were.
Yeah.
Because they're not worse. They're just not pikes.
Right. Yeah.
Will Blizzard Force still just tear them apart though?
Debatable. I don't actually think, I mean, it depends on what sort of droid list you're running. I'm not actually sure that Blizzard Force is as good into droids as people think it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a conversation for another time. I could be scarred by me playing the best droid player and possibly in the world. Most recently with Blizzard Force. But we'll revisit that conversation after some more Invader games. And then Empire was third at 52%. Big difference between those three. So Shadow Collective, Droids, and Empire, and then Rebels and Gar. Rebels actually only had a 44% win rate, and Republic had a 41%. So not great. Oof. Yeah, people on the Discord were thinking perhaps this was a lot of people were trying out Din and Old Man Boba with Rebels, like together.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't doing that well. I think that's entirely possible. I think Empire Din is a lot better than, I know they're sort of technically the same. This isn't like IG-11 and IG-88. I think Empire Din is better than Rebel Din for just synergy reasons. Maybe synergy is the wrong word. The way that he fits into the list construction. But also, Rebel Boba I think is a lot worse than Empire Boba. I'm biased because I love me some Empire
No, I
Boba,
agree.
but
I agree with that 100%.
I don't think he's bad by any stretch of the imagination. He's just not Empire Boba.
I don't know that I'd take him for his points. But
yeah, like I'd rather have Han probably.
Yeah.
For cheaper. Although Han doesn't have whipcord, so I guess that's apples to oranges a little bit. But yeah,
who needs whipcord when you have Sorry About the Mess? Similar roles.
No, it's really not.
Potato, tomato.
Yeah. Potato, orange.
Yes. See how similar they are. They're both
anyway.
round.
Faction advancement rate. I'm not going to actually, that's in the article. I'm not going to go over those because I think that's a little bit of, I don't know what the right word is, but I feel like the win rates are more relevant than advancement rates. Okay. So that is an interesting contrast to what people brought in regional elims.
Ooh.
So we said the round robin rate for, we can do all of them here. So in descending order, Empire 32%, Rebel 28%, Droids 16%, Republic 14%, Shadow Collective 10%.
That sounds like the same order, right?
Yeah, that's I'm just reminding you of the round robin.
Okay. It's like,
Yeah.
wait.
So what would you guess the most popular
Empire.
elims?
No, I'm gonna go with Rebels.
Still Empire, at 34%.
Yeah, get out of
So
here, Jay.
it actually went up from 32%. What would you say the second most popular faction was for
Shadow
elims?
Collective.
Not Rebels this time.
Shadow.
Shadow, really? I mean, I can't see it being Gar or Separatist. So yeah, Shadow.
Shadow Collective.
Wow.
Yep, 23%.
Wow.
So
But
more
all
than
the way down at 23%. So huge difference between Empire and Shadow Collective.
right, but up from 10%, which is what it was in
Well, yeah,
round robin. So people getting serious now. Shadow Collective more than doubles its representation.
Right.
And then you have Rebels at 19%, significant drop from 28%. Droids at 14% and Republic at 10.
Wow.
Yeah. So now what's interesting is that is just the raw faction representation. So that reflects advancement rates a little bit. So to the extent that, like, say, for example, Shadow Collective was advancing at a higher clip than the other ones, that would also affect, if everyone's faction stayed the same, that would reflect their representation percentage.
Were the factions locked in?
They were not. So they are locked between. So there's actually two parts of elims. There's regional elims.
Okay, yeah.
And then they call it grand finals, but basically everyone is still separated into regions for this first part of elims, and then the top four from each, like, a regional group, go to like global elims basically.
And is that their faction is locked, but not their list between the two?
Correct.
Okay.
But you could switch factions between round robin and elims,
Okay.
which lots of people did, which is interesting because this really reflects the bandwagon shifting.
Right.
And Evan and Ben looked at this also. So Shadow Collective went from, as far as what players that made elims were bringing in, what they played in round robin versus what they chose to play in elims, Shadow Collective went from 15 to 23%. So huge jump there. Empire went from 30 to 34%, also jumped there. Rebel went from 26 to 19. So lots of people made elims with Rebels that were apparently not satisfied with what they were playing. Same with Droids, from 20 to 14. So a lot of Rebel and Droid players jumped ship to Empire and Shadow Collective. Okay. And then Republic stayed almost exactly the same, 9 and 10%. So whoever the Republic masochists were in a round robin, they stayed diehard Republic fans going into elims. So not surprised. I think that's all very interesting.
Okay.
The most common archetypes for elims. Let's get some guesses. What's your guess on the most common archetype for elims?
Blizzard Force. Iden, or no, Iden's not Blizzard Force, huh? So it's either Iden or Blizzard Force. I'm gonna go with Blizzard Force though.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe Boba Din.
Empire Rebel.
Empire.
Yeah, so Jay has it.
Really?
Not specifically Boba Din, but just generally speaking, Imperial Double Bounty. because we
Oh.
did get the IG command cards previewed, and in fact, IGs came out this past weekend, like physically. I just put Din together actually, like 30 minutes ago, an hour ago, and yeah, so Empire Double Bounty, sort of generically, which could include either IGs, Din, Boba, Bosk, or Cad Bane. That's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Not all of those, but two of those in some combination. And then the second most popular archetype was Empire Single Bounty, and more specifically Empire Boba Fett, who seems to be the most popular single bounty hunter. Not surprising. I think he's probably the best one. So
Yeah.
Yeah, not shocked.
Which is nice canonically, that he's the best.
The second most common archetype was some version of Pike spam. So that includes Maul Pikes for Shadow Collective. That also includes, for Republic, Anakin Pikes. So I don't know. I don't know if you can quite call that Pike spam, but the most popular Republic archetype by far was Anakin Pikes.
Okay.
So there was actually. So you said Blizzard Force, John. How many total Blizzard Force would you say?
Well, now that it's like third down the list, how many total people do we have?
That is a good question.
Because we had 196, 2/5 went on. Or no, 2/6, the third went on. So
67.
60, yeah.
67.
I forget 67. Yeah, how did that happen? Anyways, and a third of them, so 20. So wow. Maybe only like 6 Blizzard Force.
Jay?
I'm gonna say. What did you say, John? 6?
6.
3.
Yep, 3.
3.
There's only 3 Blizzard Force for you.
Oh,
What?
take that, Mr.
What, you
Math.
want a cookie?
And two of them work for a Swift Trooper.
Oh my goodness.
One of them is me. The other one is Evan Paul.
That's funny.
Oh, he switched away from Shadow Collective to
Yeah, he will openly
Blizzard
say that he
Force.
copied my Blizzard Force list, and
Nice.
I will openly say that I copied Finn's Blizzard Force list. So, yeah, it's really good. I don't know why other people aren't taking it. Maybe people are scared to run bikes. I don't know. I was kind of scared to run bikes. I put it on the table and I was like, why haven't I been doing this the whole time?
4 bikes.
Yeah, it's
Operative or Commander Vader?
operative.
I don't know. Give me that look. They're both viable.
They're both viable.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny that the best Blizzard Force list is the extremely iconic Hoth themed pairing of speeder bikes, a made up stormtrooper unit, and the version of Vader that is supposed to be the early immediate post Clone Wars version of him hunting Jedi.
Yeah.
None of which, as far as I know, were actually participating in the Battle of Hoth.
No.
I've seen images of like AT-ATs with speeder bikes in them, but they're certainly not actually in the movie.
Right.
Anyway, it is what it is. It's an amazing list. I don't know what else to say about it. There's that GIF, right?
Yes.
Am I gonna okay? I always say GIF in my head,
It's
like
not
the peanut
butter. Nope.
There's that GIF of the, it's the guy presenting the piece of paper that says, "This just says I can do what I want." I feel like that's what Blizzard Force is. I don't know. Just
It's valid.
yeah. All right. Anyway, yeah. So lots of pikes, lots of bounty hunters, lots of
Yeah.
I mean lots of that in elims once people are getting serious. So
Makes sense.
yeah.
Very interesting.
Lots of high velocity to counter all the pikes.
Makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. I think Legion is actually overall not that far off from being like in a super good place. I don't think changes would have to be that drastic, and I think that they're pretty obvious where you need to make them. So
Let's hope the big people upstairs see that too.
God.
Yes.
big man upstairs. There's a great I'm fairly certain it's some kind of comedy sketch, but it's the tip of like the standard quarterback interview post game. And those interviews are so ridiculous to begin with. But he's basically like you know, like he's always just like he's right about to list God as, and I'd like
Yeah.
to thank the big man upstairs, the announcer, and like,
All the
it's always
cliche
someone
like
else. Yeah,
openings, but then goes to
yeah.
pivots. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen that one. It's a good one.
Anyway. Yeah, not that AMG. Which I feel like they probably are at least paying attention to. I mean, we'll see.
Crossing my fingers.
They've openly said they're working on a points update.
Insert joke here
I know.
about how God would be more effective than they would be at
Well,
making it.
undoubtedly, Jay.
Yeah.
Come on.
My thoughts and prayers are with AMG.
Wow, we certainly wandered.
I need a
some
good list
uncharted
by
territory in
packs.
this one. Yeah, I don't know what to like. Part of me is like, I think that I own one speeder bike because I bought a significant portion of my, and by that I mean literally one speeder bike, not two speeder bike models. Because I bought a significant portion of my Empire collection unpainted, but like secondhand from a local guy, and it was basically piecemeal. Like, I don't know what I have. Here's a bunch of stuff in plastic bags. And so far I've located one single speeder bike. So I'm like, should I buy some speeder bikes? But then if Blizzard Force gets nerfed before the next time I am playing, which is probably LVO, like, is that going to be a waste? I don't know.
LVO is around the corner.
I know.
Got 3 months.
It's
Because it's
right.
end of January.
Man, I'm afraid to buy speeder bikes and start painting them, but I feel like I might have to. I also would have to paint some storms because my current Empire list construction is slightly different. And
Get the speeder bikes as a Christmas present. That's about good time to decide.
Oh, it's not a matter of cost. It's just like,
no, but that's when you do it.
Yeah. Do I really want to paint?
Yeah.
/ have more boxes of Legion things in my relatively small house. I still have like unassembled stuff that, like, I have Magna Guards that I haven't put together yet. I've got Staps that I've painted, or not painted. I've put together in Prime, but not fully painted. Same with an AAT. I have a lot of crap that is just like sitting around. I have all these Rebel DLTs right here that have been right on my short list to paint that I haven't needed yet for a tournament. That's my problem, is like I don't actually get to painting something until I actually need it for a tournament. So I have a lot of things that end up being like half painted. I have a half painted.
Understandable.
This is a half painted Bosk. So yeah,
I get that.
it's a great way to, or it's a great reason to participate in tournaments.
Yeah.
Finally got my Boba Fett. I didn't even own Boba Fett. Yeah, I didn't even own him for the first 3 years of the game. And I bought him right before Nova opened and painted him.
I don't have Boba. I don't think so. Nah.
I do. Just because I was mostly playing Empire for a while.
Yeah. I refuse. You won't make me play the best faction in the game. You can't.
And that's an interesting question. Is Empire the best faction in the game?
Right now, yes.
Or is it simply the most diverse?
It's or
faction in the
both.
game?
I think both.
I don't know, but best is
It
strong.
has the most viable lists.
Best is a strong word.
I think
Then
it's
what would it be?
Popular.
If one of them has to be the best, what would it be?
One of
and
them.
why? And why
okay.
better than Empire?
If I was like, if World was tomorrow, what would you bring, basically? And you had no restrictions about
Yeah.
models, or
Everything's painted.
personal
You
shame
own,
or anything.
and you own 8 bikes.
I'd I'd probably bring Ed and Boba. So I think I'm agreeing with you.
I might even detract and go to Imperial if it was tomorrow.
Hmm.
And if
Figure
I
out
didn't,
how to play it in the first 2 games.
I think it would be a tough choice between some version of Iden Boba, possibly with IG-88. I haven't tried that yet, but I need to. Blizzard Force or just Maul Shadow Collective with Pikes. It'd be one. It would definitely be one of those 3. That would be the list. It would just be which of those choosing between them.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that's me agreeing with you, John.
Yeah.
CJ, it takes me a long time to agree with anybody, not just you.
Yeah. I noticed you do
This is
it
the
with
first
other
time he's
people.
agreed with me all night so far.
I don't know. I guess maybe they are the best by like a little bit. I just don't feel like
What do you think comes close?
that's the problem. I think there's viable lists in each for each faction that
Viable but better?
not same. I don't
You-
know about better.
Well, here's an interesting counterpoint. You know what list scares me the most as Blizzard Force?
What's that?
Anakin.
Blizzard.
Hmm.
Why?
Because the thing that Anakin Padme Pikes is best at is mitigating like all at once big hits. And that's what Blizzard Force is. Like especially if they have Overwatch, because you know, clearly you have those heavy response troopers, but they're not stripping Padme standbys and they're not damaging anything through all those dodges. So, you know, your bikes operate at range 3. Like your bikes are going to get slapped by an Overwatch.
Yeah.
But beyond that, you know, Blizzard Force is all about like delivering. It's not like the firepower in Blizzard Force is more than other lists. It's just much more concentrated. So it's all about delivering like all of that firepower in a very concentrated way to one thing. And Anakin Padme Pikes is really good at just being like, all right, fine. You know, you slapped me with this big attack. I'm gonna just spend 4 dodges. Or, you know, I'm gonna spend 2 dodges and roll 1 red surging save. And then they slap you back, slap your vulnerable bikes back with an Overwatch shot or a fire support shot or whatever. So yeah, just personally as someone that it has been recently playing Blizzard Force, the thing that I'm most scared of is in fact a Republic list. So yeah, I think to your point, Jay, there is every faction has at least one thing that's scary.
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate that in Republic's case they're reliant on Pikes and Anakin for that. Not that, I mean, don't get me wrong, Anakin is super iconic for Republic. That part is fine, but my hope with like a points update is that if they do nerf Pikes, which I think is, you know, at least some kind of points increase is reasonable, that the clones also get some decreases, because right now the success of Republic is being propped up by, other than Shadow Collective, probably getting the most use out of the best core unit in the game, because of how they, you know, Republic shares tokens and interacts with dodges and all that. So yeah. I'd be super sad if people look at the Republic results recently where they've been using Pikes and be like, see, Republic is fine, and then Pikes get nerfed without any cuts to clones or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty awful.
Yeah.
And very possible.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and people joke about like the phrases like, you know, clones know what they did. but like they're still in timeout from Rexstar.
Hmm.
Like there are a lot of people that are still very scarred from Rexstar, which I get. Like that was, not a pleasant experience to play against a list like that. But
Yeah.
I think it overlooks the fact that they could actually be legitimately in need of at least some point reductions.
Absolutely.
But
Mm.
anyway, small point reductions.
10 points each. Everything.
That would not be small.
All right. We'll go with 9. I'll
Compromise.
settle.
Compromise at 9.
Yes.
Like negotiating with little kids is really funny because it takes them a while to get to the point where they actually understand the direction you're supposed to go. So, for a long time, I'd be like, all right, kids, 10 minutes to bedtime. And they'd be like, no, 8. And I'd be like, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Twist my arm.
Yeah, fine. All
you
right.
win.
Yeah. My daughter at least has started negotiating in the correct direction. But yeah.
Nice while it lasted.
It was. All right. You guys got any other thoughts about anything?
I got lots of thoughts about everything, but not right now.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up then.
Mhm.
We are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Jay.
I'm John Bushfax Bushman.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production,